It's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And the gentleman who actually was responsible for bringing Music of Your Life, the format, to America nationwide is none other than our executive director and the host of our show, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Wow. Thank you. Now I feel so important. Except really the credit goes to Al Ham, who was a wonderful music producer who produced all the big hits of like Johnny Mathis and Rosemary Clooney and all these great sounds of the Tony Bennett, all these great sounds of the 60s. And then when he had kind of retired from his radio, he started up the Music of Your Life. And we were fortunate to meet him, and that was kind of our corporate background. And today, it's fun to have, we get to reminiscing about all of that when we get to do our Helping Seniors Radio lunchtime gathering, which we get to do every single Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And thank you, John, for a great introduction. John, by the way, just so you know, is president of Helping Seniors of Brevard. I get to serve as the executive director. And, John, you have been Helping Seniors of Brevard from the day that Joe Steckler, our founder, actually brought it on, and you actually were helping him get it all going back in his Brevard Alzheimer's days.
Going way back to that time as well. That was in the early 90s. That's hard to believe.
Wow.
And I always tell the story about Joe walking in when I was starting WMEL radio, and we were not on the air yet, and it was a hot summer afternoon. The air conditioning wasn't working, and I was painting the walls. And Joe walks in and says, "Hi, I'm Joe Steckler from the Brevard Alzheimer's Association, and I'd like to talk to the manager." And I looked around. I said, "Well, I'm it." With a paintbrush in my hand and a paint bucket in my other hand. And Joe looked kind of shocked at that, but he said, "Great, you really put your heart into your work, so you're the guy I want to talk to." And he had a upcoming art auction that he wanted us to promote for him on the air, and we had been friends ever since that time.
Wow.
And served on the board of that organization as well, and then segued into helping seniors.
Yeah, because it was so funny, because my story isn't all that different. I had met, we owned a TV station building because we do a lot of Christian multimedia production work, and in those days, Joe literally wandered in off the street, and he said, "What is it you guys do here?" And so I was telling him, he said, "Well, I'm trying to start this organization." It's 15 years ago. I mean, your story goes on forever, but my story started with Joe 15 years ago when he wandered, and he said, "I feel like it's important that we do more for seniors in our county." And Joe just had a neat way of getting people involved, and then we all took his cause and made it our cause. And again, sadly, Joe went on to his great reward. He and his wife Terry, we lost them both earlier this year. But we are doing as Joe instructed us to do, which was keep services going for seniors. And so with that kind of as a backdrop, I'm really excited because we have a distinguished panel of guests. It's the best way I could describe what we're going to do today here on our Lunchtime Helping Seniors Hour. We have so many good things to talk about. We have been really becoming great friends with the folks at AARP. Most everybody knows AARP kind of like on a national level, and they're aware that that's a group who does fight for seniors' rights. And if you remember, we like the discounts, and we also like to get those magazines because they'll tell us things that are probably helpful for us as the seniors need to know. But what a lot of people don't know is that there's a very, very vibrant kind of grassroots effort that happens as well. And in particular, I'm so excited that our region for AARP, I guess they got the country broken up into different segments, and we sort of fall into Central Florida, which a lot of times people make the mistake and say, "Oh, those people over in Brevard County, they're part of Orlando." Well, sure, we like to go to the amusement parks. We'll occasionally use the airport, but we live here in Brevard County. We want to see stuff that's here and local for us. And so as I got a chance to meet Jasmine Alfonso, who is in charge of stuff that happens in the Central Florida region, but also Karen Civitate, who is the lead volunteer for Brevard here in Brevard, they're really taking a turn for Brevard, and there's so many good things that are going on that at the last AARP chapter, because there's actually a couple of really good chapters of AARP that meet locally once a month. Friday, as a matter of fact, the chapter in Indian Harbor Beach meets at the Gleason Park Recreation Center. We're going to be out there because we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that's coming up that we're talking about on the radio today. But then there's also a Palm Bay chapter, number 2622, and that's where I had the privilege of meeting Barton Adams, who's a volunteer with AARP, who has, can I tell the secret that you're actually a TV guy too? Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. How you doing?
I'm good. Barton, thank you for being here. We're going to talk about some dates that are very important, and there's a key word here that I want you to keep in mind, FREE, free. Everything we're going to talk about is free, and these are good things you want to get involved in. So we're going to come back and talk about it, but I want to continue to introduce our distinguished panel of guests because the other folks in the studio with us are part of Moore Insurance Solutions. And Vicki Moore is no stranger to radio with us because she's been on our board of directors for a bunch of years. And she is also one of our top go-to people when it comes to somebody has a question about Medicare or insurance or things like that. And she really studies this. And Vicki, welcome to the radio. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's always so nice to be with you all today, or each time I'm here, so I'm excited to be here.
You know, I think it's amazing because whenever I talk to Vicki in summertime, she's always having to go back to school. It's like you guys have so many things that you have to study. It's like because you represent so many different companies, which is really an advantage to the people that you represent, is because you're able to really shop from among basically all the options that are out there and make sure that whatever you're recommending to somebody is going to be appropriate for them. But you really have to do a lot of schoolwork every summer because not only is Medicare itself changing, but then all these companies are changing up their plans to make sure that they're lined up with that. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, exactly. So yes, each every year the date is a little bit different, but we have a recertification we have to do for Medicare each year, and then all of the carriers as well that we represent. And my agency does represent, I believe, every Medicare Advantage plan in the area, most of the prescription drug plans, and many of the Medicare supplemental plans in the area. So lots and lots. But the recertification really goes along with the Medicare Advantage. And so, yeah, definitely every year we're brushing up on everything and taking those tests and making sure we know what we're talking about.
And your company is growing because we've had the privilege of getting to know Kara Davis, who's also a licensed insurance agent, has now joined the firm. And you guys are like the dynamic duo that's really making this happen. And we're going to talk about a cool thing you've got coming up, which is the turning 65 birthday party. So we're going to, if it's okay with you, we're going to, now that we've introduced everybody who's in the studio and we're all old friends now, we're going to start, if it's okay with you, let's start about what's going on right now because it's going on until 1 o'clock today. Nancy Deerdorf, who is our Director of Development, and I actually just came from there. It's a great, I would call it a community health fair. I think they call it a Voyage to Health, and it's going on at that beautiful new DHG medical facility. It's right there, 431 North Wickham. The way I'd kind of describe it is it's between, if you took one of those exits on I-95, whether you chose O'Galley and then came down Sarno Road to Wickham, or if you took the other one, which I think is called Ellis. I can't remember how they say that. But either way, you get over to Wickham, and it's right between there. It's a terrible way to refer to it. It used to be the IRS building, but now it's a beautiful, they've really cleaned it up. Wow, I said that bad too. So they really made it, they've renovated, and it is a beautiful medical facility that is just now coming into Brevard County. And what they're doing out there until 1 o'clock today is they're doing a health fair. They've got food out there. There's taco trucks out there. There's all kinds of neat things. Nancy Deerdorf with Helping Seniors there. Our friends from Parasol are there. Our friends from Freedom Insurance are there. I saw friends from Harmony Senior Living was out there. Lots of great resources are on site, and we're excited because it looks like that's going to be a place that we're going to do some of our programs together with AARP. So we're going to kind of dive right into that. But if you're out and about and you're anywhere in Melbourne, close to that, again, it's 831 North Wickham, so it's not far from the Walmart right there on Wickham, where Wickham and Sarno come together. go by and just say hi, and you'll see what's getting ready to come there. We're excited. It's a great facility. And Freedom is one of the insurance companies you guys work with as well, right?
Yes, it is. And they've got some great plans. And, Karen and I were lucky enough last week, we got to stop by the facility, the DHG facility, and we took a tour. And it is, like Kerry said, it's a great facility. So, and it's just going to be growing and growing. So it's really amazing, and all the different services they're going to be offering there.
Yeah, this is really going to be exciting. We already have some ideas that we're noodling around with and excited. But one of the key things going to come up is a training that's coming up, I think, later this summer that we're going to be doing together with AARP about advocacy for seniors. So we're going to keep you posted on that. But let's shift the gear and talk about AARP locally. Barton, how did you get you? Like I said, you're a TV guy, but how did you decide to take some volunteer time and help AARP and all the citizens here, with that?
Well, I was introduced to AARP by a good friend, and I went to the chapter, one of the chapter meetings, and I was exposed to the fact that you could do volunteerism. And being in semi-retirement, I like to keep busy, and so it had some exciting opportunities for events to volunteer with and have fun. I like the energy of having fun.
Yeah, I think one of the most fun things. There's been so many fun things that we've been able to do with AARP. But a couple of our personal favorites is they've done things like movies for grown up, where they'll take the whole movie theater. Like we all got to go see a couple of great movies either at the end of last year or early this year. They buy out the whole theater. They get popcorn for everybody. It's fun. It's just you guys do a lot of fun stuff in addition to serious stuff too.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, in addition to these monthly chapter meetings, and I forgot to mention, I think I mentioned that the group in Indian Harbor will meet on this Friday. It's basically a lunch opportunity. It's 11 to 1, I think. Does that sound? Am I saying that right, Vicki? You're there a lot too with those. I think it's 11 to 1.
Yes, I believe it is
11. And then the same. It's kind of the same thing, except it's the third Monday. Am I saying that right, Barton? Here at in Palm Bay.
I'm not familiar with that particular event. I haven't volunteered for that event.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
So I think we meet at the Bacosca, which is right there on, it's close to Harris, right there off of Palm Bay Road. But, as we're talking about stuff, I asked you to grab a pencil because we are going to give you a couple of dates that I do want you to get together with. But if you're hearing stuff, you say, oh, I heard them rattling on about something about a Palm Bay chapter. The best thing you can always do is call us at Helping Seniors and just say to Karen or one of our great team of volunteers, say, hey, listen, I heard them talking about this. How do I get in touch? I found it. They were talking about AARP in Palm Bay. So let me give you that number, and you can jot that number down. It's 321-473-7770. And I'm going to say it again, 321-473-7770. But because while you've got the pencil handy, make sure you keep it close by, because I'm going to give you dates for a couple of really important events that are absolutely free and you don't want to miss them. The first one, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it, is Scam Jam, and that is coming up on May the 16th. So that's a Friday. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk a lot about that. But there's also another date I want you to go ahead and block out on your calendar, and that is Wednesday, May the 21st. And that, I believe, is also 11 to 1. That is when we're going to be together with our friends at AARP at Times Square Diner, because they are sponsoring Senior Appreciation Day, which, among other things, means free lunch from Times Square Diner. And what I have heard from everybody who eats at Times Square Diner is you do not want to miss this. So we're gonna talk about a lot of the AARP things. Barton, before we get into those, there's actually a couple other things we like to get together, like the second Friday of each month. We gather together at Merritt Square Mall for Walk with the Doc. Do you want to talk a little bit about that's a fun program, and it's growing every month, too.
Yeah, it's really great. We get a chance to, once again, keep moving. That's the first thing you should do, is be active. And so it's a great opportunity to be at the mall bright and early, and there's people walking inside the mall. We do a walk at people's pace, and we do at least about 20 to 30 minutes, and you get a chance to see the stores in the mall and exercise and, talk with people along the way.
What's really wonderful is I think the doc that we get to walk with, her name is Lydia Rivera. She's an AARP, and she is so personable that I really think people really enjoy coming out just to meet her.
Yes, absolutely. Because you get a chance to walk and talk with her about any issues you may have. And she also gives a great warm up before we start. And so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, she takes the time. She makes sure we stretch out the right way so that we're not going to hurt anything when we decide to go exercising. And I was telling Karen when she first was talking about you guys establishing this program, I said, I love it because every time you go to the doctor, what's the first thing they tell you? You got to start moving, right?
Absolutely.
And then the other thing is the doctor tells you this when they're running out the door to the next patient because you get like this much time with the doctor. And so I see it in practice. I see people coming up and talking to Lydia and asking her different kind of questions. And it's really nice because she'll take the time and has the expertise to be able to say, okay, yes, you should check whatever she thinks. It's really neat to see how she works with the people.
Yes. And also we have some prizes too, which is great. We do the raffles and we also have pedometers and T-shirts.
Oh, yeah. A lot of fun. Yeah, if you've ever seen, because we always take the pictures after we've all been walking and we post them out on Facebook. And, you guys have got to walk with a doc T-shirts. Those are free. You give out pedometers when people are coming like the first time. There's always snacks and stuff too, door prizes. It's just a fun morning out.
Yes.
So, again, that is coming up the second Friday, which is... It gets together at 9, so I would say get there, maybe 20 minutes early so you can get signed in, get your T-shirt, be there when Lydia does the stretch. I've seen she's pretty prompt. She'll watch that clock, and at 9 o'clock we all take off.
Yes.
Okay, so let's walk with the doc, and now we've talked about the chapter meetings. We talked about walk with the doc. Let's talk about Scam Jam. Now, everybody knows, Barton, I think that's one of the first things that I knew about AARP is that they focus a lot on trying to keep our seniors safe from scams. You see a lot of that just in your work with AARP as well, don't you?
Yes.
So the idea for Scam Jam kind of came out because, like, whenever I open up the national magazine or the newspaper that comes in our mailbox, because, of course, we're members, we'll see information that has so much to do with how AARP on a national level is trying to, stop the scammers, but also try to create legislation that makes it very hard for them to do what they do. And so in talking with Karen and the team at AARP, we were kind of like she goes, I'd like to do something called Scam Jam. I said, that sounds like fun. What is it? And she said, I really want to get people together so that we can educate them on how they can stay safe from scams. And Barton, with that, we were kind of off to the races, and it winds up that we actually now have this scheduled. It's going to be May 16th, and it's going to be 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're going to meet at the Brennity in Melbourne, and there are going to be some amazing things. Barton, as you've been connected to the AARP and just the work you've done all along, you've probably seen cases where people have been harmed through the efforts of scammers. And I really think this is a good way for us to be able to help maybe prevent somebody from getting scammed going forward. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of scamming going on online, scamming with people, calling people on the phone. And then, of course, now with AI technology, there's scams where they can replicate somebody's voice, a loved one or friend, and act like that person's in trouble to get you to try to help them. So there's things that a lot of people need to be aware of. Also with investments, there's a lot of scams going on from that perspective. Yeah.
It's so serious. I was thinking, this is a true story. And Vicki, I was thinking about this as we were standing at the DHG Medical Center, which again, I mentioned was originally the IRS building right there on North Wickham. And a bunch of years ago, there was a elderly pastor. He was an 88-year-old pastor. He had trouble seeing, but he got a call from the IRS, and the IRS said they were on their way to arrest him if he didn't go buy a bunch of gift cards at Walmart. And so this is not a man who had anything wrong with his ability to think. He didn't have any challenges on that front, but he always would take his responsibilities very seriously, and he knew he didn't do anything wrong with the IRS, but he came from that generation. He goes, I want to make sure. He said, I'm going to call somebody. He couldn't drive. He literally called somebody. He said, I want to get in a car and drive down to the IRS and make sure this is okay. And so he's calling me, and I'm like, this is a known scam. You don't have to be. But he was smart enough to take the step. So, of course, they drive all the way from Titusville into Melbourne to ask this question. And, of course, they look up everything. It's like, no, sir, everything is good on our end. You're compliant. There's no problem. We hear about this scam all the time. But how many people fall for that and go buy those gift cards? Guys, weigh in on that,
All the time. I mean, I've heard it many times where people believe the phone call, and instead of just hanging up and calling someone yourself, they go buy those gift cards because they're responsible people. They want to make sure they're covered and they're not doing something wrong. And it's believable when you get a call and the caller ID could say IRS, and so it can be perfectly believable.
Yeah, and that's what I said. This poor guy, he spent his whole life, 88 years old, wanting to do the right thing and stay with it. And so when not only was he discombobulated and afraid, but at least he had the presence of mind to say, I'm going to take it to the source and find out. So
go ahead. What I really like is just the fact that he did check, and I run into that. I mean, different situations, but I've got a lot of clients that will call me and say, I'm getting calls from whatever carrier they might be using, and they're asking me to do this, and they want to talk to me, but I'm afraid to call them back. And so what I really like is that they are calling and asking me to do that,
yes.
Or if they should call. And most of the time, actually, in those cases, it really is the insurance company or carrier that's calling them, and they maybe want to schedule a doctor visit, or, they want to come out to the house and do a check on them, that type of thing. But they are asking. But unfortunately, it sounds like a lot of people don't ask those questions. But it's so important to double check on that.
You're saying it so right. We're literally at our mid-show break point in the show, so we're gonna dig deeper into this whole thing of what you're gonna get. Scam Jam is free, so that's the first thing I want to tell you. But you're gonna need to assign that morning. It's basically 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. On May 16th, it's a Friday, because we need you to be there. We're going to graduate you as a scam jammer, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that means on the other half of the show. And of course, we're going to talk about turning 65 with Medicare. So we're going to continue with our great panel, our distinguished panel. I like to say Kara Davis and Vicki Moore with More Insurance Solutions, and Barton Adams with AARP. So we'll be right back for the second half of Helping Seniors.
Once again, here's Kerry Fink. Kerry?
Hey, thank you, John Harper. Good to be back on the radio for the second half, 90.3 FM WEJF, if you're listening online at WEJF.net. And for those of you that catch us as a podcast, because we always take these shows and release them as podcasts, so wherever you're getting a podcast, or you find us on YouTube, Facebook, or even on our website, Helping Seniors of Brevard. Thank you for pulling this material together. One of the reasons we make this available as a podcast is we find out people, like, you might catch part of the show and say, wow, I would like to hear the beginning of that. Or if it's a topic that makes sense for you, maybe it's something that you want to share with, this would be great for Fred to hear, So then you can say, hey, Fred, here's the link. Take a listen. They're talking about Scam Jam. You need to know all about that. And in fact, that's exactly what we're talking about. We are working with our friends at AARP, and we are talking about Scam Jam, which is an event coming up May 16th. It's going to be at the Brennity at Melbourne is what it's called. Although the Brennity at Melbourne is technically in Vieira, at least how I add it up. But it's a great location, and they are opening the doors and allowing us to do Scam Jam there. I'm going to give you the date. I'm going to give you the time, and most importantly, you have to RSVP because it's free, but it's limited to 50 people. And Barton Adams with AARP, he's a volunteer there, and we've been talking about this in the first half of the show. Barton, I just think this is going to be a great event. It's going to start in the morning, 8 to 10, with a shred event. Now, talk about what the shred event does and why that's a great thing for people to make note of.
Well, the great thing about the shred event is if you have all those papers you have in your house that's been accumulating, that junk mail or sensitive documentation, or if you have your shredders burning out, the cool thing is you can, grab a couple of bags of the papers and bring them to this event. And what we do is you pull up with your car, and we actually take the stuff out of the back seat or the trunk, and we put it in a bin right in front of you, and it's shredded right at the shred truck right there. So you don't have to worry about your documents being moved to another location and trusting that it got shredded. You can actually see it shredded right before your eyes. So it's a real great event that's really cool.
Yeah, it's neat. We were talking with Sharon Myers, who is our wonderful friend over at the Brennity, who's making all of this possible for us to be able to hold this event there. And she said, that's exactly what we're required to do. We have a shred truck come by anyway, like once a month, because we have to make sure that we're following I guess there's all these rules, HIPAA rules and things like that about privacy. And they want to make sure that data doesn't fall into somebody's hands. And the same thing, like maybe you have old tax returns, maybe you have old bank statements. Don't just throw them in the trash, because there are people who go dumpster diving and try to figure this out. Right, Barton?
Absolutely. It's the safest thing that you can do is for your papers. And it's cool because everybody lines up in their cars. It's sort of like a little drive-through. And you drive up right next to the truck, and we take it out, put it in the bin, and then it's shredded right there.
Yeah, so this is happening on, again, let me give you the date so you can get this down. It's Friday, May 16th. The Shred Truck event is happening 8 to 10. So you want to get there, get in line, make sure you get your stuff shredded. Then come on in 10 a.m. and join us for the actual event called Scam Jam. Now, when we were talking about Karen Civitate, who's the lead volunteer for Brevard County, and when she was first saying, like, I really would like to do this, because Barton, we were talking during the half show break. You and I were both at one of the AARP movies for grown-ups called Thelma, and we were trying to explain to Vicki and to Kara with More Insurance Solutions the premise of the movie, which was really it was well done, it was entertaining, but it was about a lady who got a call from her grandson in jail, needed $10,000, and as soon as she mails off the package with $10,000, grandson calls, says, I'm coming over this afternoon. And she's like, wait, you're in Mexico in jail. Like, what are you talking about, Grandma? And at that moment, she realized she was scammed. Barton, take it from there.
Well, I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's a lot of fun. I was really, really surprised that this movie, I hadn't heard of it until we actually were featuring it.
Yeah.
And I was just a little worried. This is going to probably be boring. But that movie, we laughed so much. If you remember, that movie from beginning to end was hilarious. But it actually showed how easy it is to get scammed. But also it showed how you can take those examples of what you actually saw in the movie and be on alert so that it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, I thought it really told the story well. By the way, if you have access to Hulu, or go ahead and get their 7-day free trial and check the movie out. It really is a great retelling of it. Will give you some insight, and it's entertaining at the same time. I really think it's interesting. But to the point, in Scam Jam, we want to talk about some of this stuff that's going on. So I want to share with you some of the speakers that you're going to be getting instruction from. So, for example, Brevard County Sheriff's Office obviously gets a lot of insight into what's going on where seniors are scammed. So Corporal Beal with the Sheriff's Department is going to be there and share not only the latest tips and ideas that they have about avoiding scams, but can also maybe give you a heads up of some of the tactics these guys are taking. Another key speaker we're going to have is a gentleman named Will Shiner. He is actually our Florida public attorney, which means here in Brevard County, he's the one that if they can nail a scammer, he's the guy that's going to send them to jail. And so he actually publishes a newsletter every month called the Monthly Brief, and he is sharing with us all the time the latest scams and things that they're seeing. So that's going to be there. We were talking, Barton, you mentioned during the first half of the show about these AI scams. And so we have an elder law attorney friend of ours. His name is Greg Schwendeman. He's with the law office, Rhodes Law. Ruth Rhodes, great board-certified elder law attorney in our county, and helps us a lot in our work with helping seniors. But Greg is going to come and share a story of his father being almost scammed by AI. And I was telling part of the story, said during the break, I said we never really took a break because we were talking about Scam Jam the whole time. But I said he's in his office working away as an attorney would do. Dad gets a call at home from his son, the attorney Greg, in Greg's voice through AI, saying, Dad, I've been in a car wreck and I'm over here in Orlando. And you can help me if you'll just go down and put these $20 bills into this cryptocurrency ATM around the corner. Now it sounds absurd, but Dad took this seriously because he was talking to his son on the phone. Thank God that Greg had happened to call in or somehow and thwarted the whole thing because he was literally ready. Dad was literally ready to go find some $20 bills and start shoving them into this ATM. So if it can happen to somebody as in the family as somebody as sophisticated and knowledgeable about these things as a elder law attorney as Greg Schwinneman is, we've got to get schooled up on this stuff to keep the people around us safe. That's the point of Scam Jam. So Karen Civitate, lead volunteer for AARP here in Brevard, she is going to share some of the latest. We were talking, Vicki, you were talking during the break, some of the information that she'd shared at some of the things that you guys had talked about before.
Right. And unfortunately, in the Medicare world, you see a lot of scamming. It happens a lot. It could be people calling, within call centers. But what I was mentioning during break was I've got a lot of clients that will call me and say, I've got a call. If their carrier is United, the United, they're saying they're United. They want to call. They want to come to my house and do an examination, or they want to have a phone call, and I'm just afraid to call them back because I don't know if they're real. So luckily, quite a few people call and just want to verify. And I just say, let's call that number together and, we'll find out if it's actually the carrier. And oftentimes it is. But I really like that so many of them are calling me and we're checking on it. That's the most important thing, is ask questions.
Yeah, and Vicki, that's one of the reasons you're going to be presenting at the Scam Jam as well, is because you're going to help share some information about that. We also have Carlos Cuesta from Synergy Home Care. He's going to talk about making sure that if you're getting help at home, that you have good help at home. Because, another scam that we have personally seen over and over is somebody goes down to the grocery store, they pluck a business card off of a bulletin board there at the grocery store. It says, I'll help watch mom or dad while you're at work or something like that. You think, wow, this is so much cheaper than getting, hiring a, quote, professional. And so they do this. But what that happens is the professional ends up helping themselves to everything in the home and then heads off. And so often in these particular scams, the family is embarrassed. They don't press charges. They don't want to make it known. And then this person goes on and does it to the next family. So Carlos Cuesta from Synergy Home Care is also going to share that. So again, to kind of give a bow tie around this whole thing, it's Friday, May 16th. We need you there to invest those five hours. It's 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We're even going to provide lunch. AARP is buying lunch. So your lunch is included. Everything is free. There are only 50 seats, so you have to RSVP or you'll be told, sorry, we won't have a seat for you. You'll have to come back to the next one. And we really are hoping that we're going to move these around the county and do these in different areas. But this one is taking place Friday, May 16th, 10 to 3 at the Brennity at Melbourne, right there in Vieira. And again, the shred truck event is 8 to 10. The actual event is 10 to 3 with all these great speakers with a lunch break in between, food provided, snacks and everything are provided also by the Brennity, so you're not going to be hungry. And when you're there at the end, you're actually going to get a Scam Jammer certificate. You will be designated as an official Scam Jammer, and we will ask you to take a little just for fun pledge that says, I promise I'm going to take what I learned here today and do my best to stay scam free. We're gonna jam the scammers, and I also pledge to try to help those people around me avoid the scams too. So you're actually going to get trained not only to keep yourself safe, but hopefully you'll be able to keep your family members, your friends, and if you guys will talk about stuff, it's going to help shut these scammers down because they're always trying to stay a step ahead. So does anybody want to bring in a final closing comment on Scam Jam? It's going to be a great event.
I do remember you saying something, Kerry, is that people can still bring their shred items even if they cannot attend the event.
That is correct.
Okay.
You do not have to be a registered entrant for Scam Jam to be there for that. Again, we have to hold the limit to 50 people simply because of the size of the room and the materials and all that. But our hope is that the people go away really excited about what they've been empowered to do to fight scams and to stay safe from scams. We're going to take this around the county. That's what we really want to do with it. So, yeah, it's good. So with that, let's shift a gear and talk about turning 65. And, I always make this observation, Vicki, that when we do the work of helping seniors, and again, you understand this sitting on the board of helping seniors, just like John Harper does, that we have more seniors now than ever in Florida. First, people are just flat living longer. It just happens. I mean, it used to be unusual somebody would turn 100. It's not unusual at all. People are just flat living longer. Number two, everybody's moving to Florida. This is a great place. We all love the sunshine. There's a lot of there's a lot of legal advantages to living in Florida. I've done many shows with elder law attorneys, board certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson. We've talked about a lot of the value of homestead here in Florida and the protections it affords. Even after you pass away, if you had Medicare, they can't come back after your house. And there's a lot of reasons for good reasons to be a senior here in Florida. But one of the points about this is the third reason that the senior population is growing is so many people are turning 65. And Vicki, that's what led you and Kara to come up with this idea called the Turning 65 birthday event. Talk about it.
All right. Well, we're really excited. This is going to be our very first event that we're calling the Turning 65 Birthday Party. But it's going to be for people who are just, getting ready to turn 65. And they really, so many people have questions about Medicare and what that's all about. So we're going to educate on Medicare and what those options are. And, typically when you turn 65 is when people have always gone on Medicare, your Part A and your Part B. But, like you mentioned, everyone's living longer. And so a lot of people are working longer. So even though you're turning 65, you might not be quite ready to go on Medicare yet. You might still get your coverage through your workplace. And so, but it just depends. Everybody's got a different situation. So if you're just not sure if you're getting ready to turn 65 or, maybe you've worked for a few years past 65 and you're getting ready to actually retire and then you're ready for Medicare. So this event is a great event for you too, because you're still going to have a lot of questions and, what do you need to do? But in addition to the education piece of it, we're going to provide lunch. We're going to have a great pizza lunch. And so, and we're going to have great prizes. So, number one, most important thing, of course, is the education. When do I apply for Medicare? What do I need to do? What happens if I've been working? What happens to my spouse if she's had workplace coverage and now I am retiring? What type of plan is she going to go on? What's available to her? So we're going to talk about all of those different pieces, and so we're really excited about it. Do you have anything to add, Kara?
Vicki said, let's have a birthday party, and I was like, I can throw a party. So I was like, let's just go and do it every month. I mean, every month someone's turning 65. So whether it's this time or the next month, come on down, because whether it's you or someone in your family, bring your parent who's turning 65 who has a million questions for you. Bring them down so we can answer it in a professional capacity.
And I will also add, so typically when you are just turning 65, you have a 7-month window. You've got the 3 months before your birthday, the month of your birthday, and 3 months after your birthday. So, we've got people that have RSVP'd for the event that are not turning 65 until December, which is great because they're just getting themselves educated. They're not in that window yet. But so even if you're not quite in that window and you just want to kind of come out and get yourself educated, that's okay too. So,
it's so important what you're talking about because Nancy Deerdorf, who, like we mentioned, is our director of development, she has a saying. She says, how do you know what you don't know? And the second part of that, which I really think is an important part of it, is what you don't know can, in fact, hurt you because there are rules. Like even if you're working away, there are certain rules that you have to be aware of because it can really come back and penalize you later on if you don't take the right steps in connection with your birthday. And so, we have talked about, Joe Steckler, our founder, had always talked about making an aging plan, which we kind of euphemistically call getting your ducks in a row. And we always add a couple of things to it. We say, number one, we say, don't try this on your own. Talk to somebody who really is on the inside, who studies this, who eats, lives, breathes, sleeps it, because they can help you avoid a mistake. And we talk about this a lot. We talk about this in the legal world. We talk about this in the home care world. We certainly can talk about in the Medicare and Medicaid world that you cannot afford to make mistakes here because sometimes we're not talking about like hundreds of dollars of mistakes. We can be talking about tens of thousands of dollars of mistakes because I know Vicki just enough to be dangerous, but the pattern of who you see doctors, what medications, all that is part of the formula that you look at before you make a recommendation to somebody. And if you are just out there winging it, or worse yet, you're getting all this junk mail, because I'm sure They know you're turning 65, so you get all this mail in your mailbox. Oh, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. And maybe they are, but it's all based on somebody's personal situation. And if they don't have any clue what your personal situation, but that's what you and Kara do. You sit with somebody, you understand their situation, and then you help navigate them to something that is going to be appropriate for them. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think that's great. And, I'm so excited to be part of, and have for several years, been on the board of helping seniors. So I've been such a big part of our big, our giveaway. We give away a car every year. So we've done so many events, with the car shows and things like that. But, recently somebody did an analogy in the Medicare world about cars. Not everybody's going to be the best fit for the same car. And it's the same, everybody, there's people that are driving Porsches. There's people that are driving, Prius. I mean, everybody's got a different car that's going to work best for them, and it's the same thing with Medicare. So there's not a one size fits all. So I kind of thought that was kind of a cool analogy, which is very true. So that is so important, is just sitting down with somebody that's knowledgeable about Medicare overall, and find out who your doctors are, what your medications are, what your needs are. Are you a snowbird? Do you travel? What are going to be the best options for you?
Yeah, there is so much to know. And why would you need to go to school and do all the work that, Vicki, you and Kara will be doing this summer? Why would you not just talk to somebody? Because, again, you guys are free. I mean, when you sit down, it's not like somebody's like, oh, let me write a big check so you can consult me. And the point is, because you're independent, you're not beholden to a specific company, so you can really explore everything and try to determine what's going to be most helpful. So back to the 65th birthday, so I know it's at Joe's Senior Resource Center. That's where our Helping Seniors offices are. We're on the second floor of the Omni Healthcare building, which is 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. I always explain it's just a couple of blocks away from the hospital. It's a big, nice kind of gray glass building. It says Omni Healthcare on the side of it, and we're right there on the second floor. So I know that's where it is, but tell us again, like the date, the times, and do people call to RSVP, or how does it work?
Well, we do. We have sent out invites to, in the community, people that are turning 65. But of course, if you're listening to us on the radio right now, or if you have friends, please feel free to reach out to us at 321-272-0218 to RSVP. But you don't, if you show up, that's okay, because we'll make sure you're going to get the information that you need. We just want to make sure we have enough pizza for everybody, because we are providing food. But please come out. If you need information, definitely come on out. But it is, like Kerry said, it is at the Omni Healthcare building. We are on the second floor, and we are providing pizza. We're going to have great drawings and prizes, and like I said, most importantly, the information. But it is May 6th on a Tuesday from 11 to 1.
See, and I really want to bring this point home, because I believe this with all my heart. Both it's like when we talk to like the elder law attorneys, when they put time into doing seminars and training people, and I know this about both of you guys. This is not, nobody's twisting arms or anything like this. You guys are just interested in getting the information in people's hands and then letting them choose and make the next step. And so one of the problems is, if you sit down with somebody who works for a particular company, they're going to give you the best wisdom that they can about that company, but they can't really talk aside and say, well, maybe in your case this is better for you. Whereas you guys, being independent, you really can look at everything and then say, based on your situation, because you guys might meet with 100 people, and there's probably 100 different solutions, right? Because one for each person, right?
That's exactly true. And I do want to add, I'm just really excited to have Kara Davis on board. She's new with the organization, and she's very knowledgeable. And so I can't wait for everybody to meet her at the birthday party. And she's out and about at a lot of events as well, like we do a lot. And do you have anything to add, Kara?
What I was going to say is that, and it's a recommendation I give a lot of people, is if we are not your local agents, have a local agent that's a broker.
Right.
Because if you're going to call a specific carrier just to sign up for a plan, they can only tell you about that plan that is covered with them. So if you sit down with an independent agent like us, we can go over all of your medication, all of your doctors. Make sure that what you really want is covered in the way you want it to be covered. And that goes through all the carriers. And so as a broker, we're allowed to do that, is to sit with you and go through that.
And I will also add, oftentimes, people have coverage under 65, whether it be, with lots of different companies. And, oftentimes they've been happy with that coverage. So, but they automatically think, well, I'm going to just call that same company and do the Medicare through them. And, sometimes that's okay. But to Kara's point, it might not be your best option. But people get so used to working with one company. And so they kind of just stick with that. But when you do talk with the broker, what might be the best thing under 65 may not be your best option over 65. And they're going to just put you in whatever they have to offer.
Yeah.
So.
There's another point, and I just have like half a second to make this point, but another bugaboo of mine is people see somebody they used to love on television who comes on the TV and talks to them about Medicare, and because you like the way they played football or the particular TV show that they were on, you're like, oh, I need to call that 800 number because if I tell them my zip code, it's going to help me. And so that sounds real appetizing, except you're going to talk to a call center in Omaha, I'm just making that up, and they're going to try to help you figure out medical solutions, either Beachside or West Melbourne or Cocoa, wherever you are. Why not talk to somebody who's in the neighborhood and really understand what's going on?
Well, and I agree with you. It's a bugaboo of mine as well. It is frustrating when you talk to somebody and they're like, well, we just called that 1-800 number and now I'm having issues. Can you help me? And of course, I'm not going to turn anybody away, but it is, when you call those 800 numbers, you're not going to have somebody that's a resource if you have issues with doctors, because they're putting you with doctors maybe that nobody knows and things like that. So it is very helpful to work with somebody that's local.
Vicki Moore and Kara Davis with Moore Insurance Solutions. And again, the date for the 65 birthday party?
May 6th from 11 to 1 at the Omni Building on the second floor.
Yeah, Joe Senior Resource Center. And Barton Adams, the date again for Scam Jam
is the May 16th.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun day out there. So really want you to make plans to participate in all these different things. Again, if you missed any of this, call us at Helping Seniors, 321-473-7770. Karen or one of our great volunteers will give you that information. Again, as a nonprofit, we have no reason to exist other than try to serve our seniors and their families. So give us a call. That's the time we have for Helping Seniors Radio today. Thank you, Barton Adams with AARP, for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you, Vicki and Kara, for being here with Moore Insurance Solutions.
Always great to be with you.
And we will see you next week right back here for Helping Seniors Radio. Have a great week till then.